Welcome, fight fans. My name is Jeff. This is my show, The Sweet Science, episode 2, where we will talk boxing related news, and upcoming fights. Of course, this week we're going to talk about the Canelo versus Ryder fight. We'll also hit on the Joshua Buatsi fight. Talk about possible future trainers for Ryan Garcia. We'll also talk about the new contract for Regis Prograis, going over to Matchroom Boxing for a 3-fight deal. And we'll hit on a few other topics for today. Let's start, of course, with the Canelo versus Ryder fight. I mean, kind of what we expected. Canelo dominated the fight. Ryder took some good shots. Went down in the third round with a nice jab, overhand right by Canelo, which looked to break Ryder's nose. Blood was gushing after that. Ryder even said at the press conference that, he just the first time he had his nose broke and he could feel the blood coming down the back of his throat. Makes it hard to breathe and makes for a tougher fight. But he bounced back from that. Even after getting stunned later in the later rounds, he showed good leg strength. His legs held up in that round. He came back, fought pretty well in the second half of the fight. Ryder did. Canelo still controlled the fight, did what he wanted, dominated, backed him up, made him fight on the defense. Uh, but you could say rounds 10 through 12, you could say Ryder took those rounds, but it wasn't enough to take the fight, or it wasn't enough to make a decision, or make you think that, he controlled that fight in any way. Canelo absolutely dominated it. Ryder made a comment at the presser afterwards that he felt that Canelo was declining. Uh, Seeing him take the shots that he took from Canelo, it's hard to say he was declining. Those are some hard shots. Of course, we all know Ryder. They call him the gorilla for a reason. He's a tough guy. He's only been taken down once in his career, so it's hard to say Canelo is declining off of that fight. Uh, I want to see him go up against Benavidez. Like to see him take Charlo fight, guys in his division. Then I'd like to base, what is declining, how he's declining. Don't want to see him take the Bivol fight. Talked about that last week. Not a fan of him taking that fight, but he's kind of hell bent that that's the fight he's going to take in September. No questions asked. That's what he wants. Being the king of the sport, he's probably going to get anything he asks for. But I just hate to see him hold those belts hostage in that division. Not giving the other guys an opportunity. Charlo Tszyu, Benavidez, Jaime Magia, Boo Boo Andrews, all these guys deserve a shot at trying to take those belts from him. Even if they can't, even if they're not the guys to beat him, they all, they're all the top in their division and deserve a shot at it. And he had, in my opinion, needs to give him a chance. Give one of those guys a chance. Stop going for the weird fights out of your division and just to try to build your legacy when you're denying other fighters that opportunity. But I mean, it was a homecoming for Canelo. 11 years since he'd been back home in Guadalajara, Mexico, where 50,000 Mexicans showed up for that fight. They showed out. They showed their love. I loved his intro, kind of a reboot on a Rocky song, and it was pretty neat. So and it looked like he had what they say 128 mariachi band members there. So he came out ready to show out for his hometown, and he definitely boxed well, looked good. The wrist looked strong, looked to have his power back. And like I said, it's hard to judge against a guy like Ryder, who is tough. They call him the gorilla for a reason. The guy's tough, man. So it was hard to knock him out. He knocked the guy down. He stunned him twice. Just couldn't finish him. To me, that doesn't give signs of declining when you fight a tough fighter like Ryder. All right, let's move on to the fight that was on before that, early fight in the day. Joshua Buatsi back in the boxing ring after a little time off, and he showed his wrestling. Didn't look great. The fight wasn't impressive. He came out with the win, but nothing that you could build on. Maybe by his next fight, we'll be able to get a little bit more judgment on him. Hopefully, he gets back in the ring sooner than later and doesn't take more time off like he did this time. get back in there by the end of summer. I'd say I'd like to see him back in by August or September myself. Back in the ring and get rid of that ring rust, and see what he can do. But let's talk about something that I missed out on last week, which would have been the signing of Regis Prograis to Matchroom for a 3-fight deal that he took from them over a 5-fight deal that Top Rank offered him. Uh, which is weird for him to take that Matchroom deal because he's been calling Ramirez out. He's been calling for a rematch against Taylor. He's been talking a little trash about Teo Barbosa. He's been kind of calling all these guys out, and then he goes over to Matchroom, who none of those guys are signed with, and less opportunity that he's actually going to fight those guys anytime soon. He does have guys to fight him. Matchroom's got guys for him. I mean, like I said, he can go over. He can fight Montana Love. Jack Catterall's over there. You got Hitchens, Mortest, Garcia, and then of course Sparks lost this weekend. I don't see him fighting a Prograis just for the fact that he doesn't want to take a second loss this early in his career after losing last week or this week. I'm not sure that guy's going to take that fight. He'll probably take a couple more fights, build his rep back up before he would go at a guy like Prograis, because you don't want to lose back-to-back fights in boxing. Not a good look. A lot harder to rebuild yourself from 2 losses compared to one tough loss that he took this week, which could have went 50-50. He could have won that fight. Could have been called a decision, a draw, or it could have been called a draw, and or he could have won the fight. It could have went either way. Couldn't be mad at the decision. And that fight was a tough fight to judge. Very close. Both guys showed out in different rounds. Nobody really dominated the fight, so it come down to those Mexican judges. I'm sorry, they're going to give it to their guy if it's close every time in that situation. But let's also talk about some other news I've been hearing about a possible, which is really exciting for me because this is a fight I would love to see. Morales versus Benavidez. Been in the talks. They say they're at the tables talking about it. I won't believe anything until I see it. Very dangerous fight for Benavidez to take, especially since he's in line to fight Canelo, and a loss would probably take that away from him. And Morales is a guy you don't want to play around with. He's got a punch. He's tough, and right now he's a guy that most guys are ducking. And I applaud Benavidez if he's going to the table to fight this guy right now, because that's a big time fight for both of them. Very dangerous, more dangerous for Benavidez. Morales is up and coming. If he takes that loss, he can bounce back. Benavidez is going to set him back for sure if he takes a loss to this guy. But if this fight happens, better believe I'll be on board. And if it's on pay per view, I'll pay whatever the price is to watch these two guys bang it out. So hopefully they can get together a good undercard for that fight if it happens. A couple other topics that I got on here. Upcoming women fight. Oh man, yeah, let's talk about that. In the news this week, I had heard that Savannah Marshall had signed on to fight Cruz this coming up this summer in July, which to me puts the 4 horsemen of women on the map. Which actually you could say the 5 horsemen if you put Estrada in there. But Katie Taylor's going to be fighting. Serrano is now scheduled to fight. Marshall's scheduled to fight, and Shields is scheduled to fight. So you got all 4 of the top women in boxing. 4 of the top women. 4 of the top women in boxing fighting and scheduled fights to date and ready to go. Uh, it's going to start later this month with Katie Taylor fighting Chantel Cameron in Dublin. Uh, Said to be a huge fight. Homecoming for Katie. First time she's ever fought back home with all the stuff that was going on there. It was too dangerous before for her to go back home and fight, but now she's able to go back. It's going to be great. I can imagine what the crowd's going to be like there for that fight. And then you got Serrano, who just signed on to fight Hardy. I don't know what was going on with the so-called suspension thing that I had heard about her. I never heard any further inkling of it, or what might have caused it, or what that situation was. So I just kind of ignored it as it might have just been a rumor. But she's now scheduled to fight Hardy. later in the month of July. You got Savannah Marshall, just like I said, just signed on to fight Cruz. And of course, Shields will be fighting Gabriella for the second time. That's going to happen in June 2nd on that fight. So you got the 4 women of the sport signed up, ready to fight. Women's boxing, always exciting, especially I'm pretty sure Alicia Baumgartner is going to sign on to fight somebody soon. We just watched Mare previously fight. Looked okay. Bounced back from her loss, got a decision win. Good for her. She says the Alicia Baumgartner fight probably will not happen again because supposedly she doesn't want to fight her, and she's going to go ahead and move up and wait. So she'll go ahead and go away from that fight. Let's talk about something that happened in boxing this week that I thought was really cool. Announcers didn't like it so much. I thought it was definitely a big step forward for boxing. Martinez versus Batista fight. There was a non-knockdown call in the fight where the ref called a slip, but it was a clear knockdown by Martinez. Martinez took Batista down. The ref had called it a slip and didn't give Martinez credit for the knockdown. The announcers were even saying, "Hey, that's a knockdown, blah blah blah. That was a bad miss." Well, during in between the rounds, they went back and they looked back at the footage, came back and overturned that call to a knockdown, giving Martinez the rounds 10-8. The announcers didn't like it. Of course, they're old school. They didn't like that. They went back and overturned what a ref had said. And they were all against it. I loved it. I thought it was a great step for boxing. If you get something wrong, correct it, especially something in a close fight like that. Martina versus Batista was a very close fight, and that was a deciding factor in that fight. I truly believe that if Martina doesn't get that 10-8 round, that fight's probably a draw, and instead of him getting that W. So that was a difference in a win and a loss for him. So definitely a big step for boxing to take the time to do what they did. It didn't take a lot of time out of it. It didn't take any time out of the fight. As a matter of fact, they got it done before the round had started. Went in and corrected the call before the start of the next round, and gave the knockdown to Martinez. I applaud boxing for that. Definitely a good step forward. It's too much of the wild west in boxing. We need to start having more rules like this, as long as they don't interrupt the fights, and it's not done too many times, and it's done in a reasonable manner. And we're not always questioning the ref, but refs are human, like everybody else. They're going to make, mistakes. That was a mistake made in that fight, and it was correct. It was nice to see. Thank you, boxing, for doing something like that. Big step forward. Like seeing it. Uh, and a little bit of different news. Let's change it up a little bit. Talk about some of our young amateur fighters. They are over in the Grand Prix right now, and fighting, and we had 8 Americans advance over the weekend, guaranteeing at least 8 bronze medals for the Team USA. That will continue this weekend coming up. Semifinals, things like that. We'll see how that goes for America, and how we land in that Grand Prix big tournament across the sea. Good luck to those young fighters over there, all the young fighters over there from all around the world. Good luck to you guys, and nice young up and coming talent. Check it out if you get an opportunity. Look into it. Look up some of these names of these young guys, these young women, and see the next names of boxing. Pretty exciting. Let's go ahead and get into this week's fights and my thoughts on them. You got Zaro fighting. I like him a lot. Big guy. He's a cruiserweight. I love seeing him fight. He's going to be. It's a vacant WBO European Cruiserweight title fight. Zaro versus Burton, May 12th. Check your local listings, BT Sport, Your Call, London, and UK. Check your time on that being in the UK, usually early fight time for the US. You can get the main event usually around 5 o'clock, which is always nice. Opens you up to be able to watch fights in the US on the fight times that we have. Like, for instance, you got the WBA intern junior welterweight title fight. That's going to be Barroso versus Rolly Ramiro. That's going to be a Saturday fight. Check your local listings on that. It's going to be on Showtime. I know that for a fact. It's going to be in Las Vegas. As part of the network's 3-bout broadcast, Cuban contender Rancy Bazalami and Omar Juarez and another battle between junior welterweights. That'll be another one to check out. Looks like there's going to be a good undercard on that fight. We'll see what Rolly does. That'll probably be the fight that I'll check out more than any because Rolly's always kind of a little mouthy. He's always got a lot to say, so let's see how he comes back off that loss to Tank, who sent him sent him sleeping. But you also got Janovic back in the ring against Butler. That's going to be a May 13th fight. Also Saturday around 10 p.m. It's going to be broadcasted on ESPN, Stockton Arena in Stockton, California. So that's going to be a late one. That's probably not going to be till about midnight. So you might be able to catch that Rolly fight first, and then switch it over to catch that main event on ESPN. Last but not least, don't really like talking about Jake Paul or KSI. But KSI has a fight this week against Joe Fournier. That'll be on the Zone pay-per-view. If you want to be a chump and buy that, go ahead. That's your money. You want to blow it? That's your money. Like I said, it won't be in my pocket. Not going to do it on my watch. Once again, that's it from me. This is episode 2. My name is Jeff. I'm your host. This is The Sweet Science. Leave your comments.